I have no idea.
Aww.
So
That's so cute.
you need to get a stamp.
So I have a stamp.
And I did this when I sent out birthday
All right.
cards, like my
You should be
gymnastics team and all the back.
I'm so sorry for all
It's
that.
just a stamp. but I
Every
did.
time with you, it's always technical difficulties, right?
It's like,
Okay,
yay.
I think we've got
But I did that for
6
the birthday.
participants online, so Adam's gonna go ahead and.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Because everybody's like, we call it.
Thank you and check
Just
your
wanted to-
attendance. All right, we are late, but it was all for very important information, right, guys? Awesome. Okay, so for those of you guys online, I hope you can hear me. If not, please put in the chat. Today is open houses.
To pull up a chair.
If you want to sit with the girls, you go right on over there.
Come
Yeah,
on.
come on over. Or we could just scoot your table over, whatever works.
We
best
can
for you.
connect you.
We have posted him all week. Him and his AI, like,
Regular vendors, and then we've got some secret people who sneak in, and then we've got several online too. So,
Okay, awesome.
for open houses today, this is my friend Chris Day. Chris, how long have you been an agent with Keller Williams?
I started with Keller Williams in 2007.
2007. Do we all know what happened around that time?
Yeah, 2008 was
Yeah.
a great year.
It's crazy, and you stuck it out.
I did, yeah. So I was licensed in 07. I went full-time in 08, and I struggled for years, but I got really good at listing short sales, actually. Mhm.
That, we're gonna have you teach a class on that now that you've opened that door. Thank you very much.
I don't think we're gonna have those again.
It's good to know though.
Yeah.
Because there's gonna be a few that pop up here and there, but nothing like what it was before. What would be your one advice for working through maybe a down market for a newer agent?
Oh, and in a down market, just as the shift book talks about, you have to double down, you have to talk to way more people than you would normally talk to in a good market. So it's all about just communication and putting yourself out there and just, doing the work on a daily basis. Mhm.
Absolutely. I mean, whether you've been in it for that many years or 1 year or 1 day, it's all about the activities that you do. Right.
Absolutely.
So, excellent. Well, I won't take up any more of your time. These guys are fantastic. You're gonna love
Awesome.
it. It's an intimate group. Learn about capturing leads with open houses, guys.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, so I am Chris Day, and I started with Keller Williams about 16 years ago. Open houses are something that really helped me. Well, let me back up a little bit. So I was an agent for a number of years. I kind of got out of real estate for a few years and got a degree in graphic design. I came back to Keller Williams as Director of Agent Services, and I was in that role for a couple of years before I went back into sales. So I came back into sales after being out of sales for maybe 4 or 5 years, and in 2017, I came back in as a full-time agent. So I went from 0 sales for a number of years to closing 44 in my first year back in. And a lot of the business that I got from a lot of the 44 closings that I had in my first 12 months was from open houses. So I got a ton of business from open houses. It's a really, really, really good way to generate business, and it's virtually free, so where else can you go and hang out for a couple of hours and have potential clients just walk up to you and start having conversations with you? I mean, really, it's a really, really great way to, add people to your database and to close some sales. So welcome. What have you learned so far in Ignite?
Oh my gosh, that's a loaded.
That's a big loaded question with.
Nothing at all.
Let me go back in my notes.
I mean, how do we calculate?
Legit.
Okay, how much of what you have learned have you implemented so far?
1%,
Okay,
but I've started. The reason I said 1% is because I have truly tried to implement something from like each training,
yeah,
and it's still not even
It's overwhelming.
1%. It's just not 1%, but
Mhm.
1% is better than 0.
yeah, absolutely. When I've gone to national trainings like Family Reunion, I always wanted to just pick 1 to 3 things that I would pull out and implement, because you can't implement everything that you learn, but find what really resonates with you and try to implement a little bit of it. And I hope that you can implement some things, into open houses because it'll really propel your business if you allow it to.
Everybody wave at Sam.
I did, I was
Hi,
waiting
Sam.
a second ago.
I just texted her, I said, we all just saw you.
All right. Okay, today we're going to be covering how to capture leads with open houses. We're going to go over the benefits of open houses, best practices, and look at the prepare, prospect, and pursue model. So the agenda today, we're going to go over capturing leads with open houses, best practices, prepare, prospect, and pursue, and then we'll go over some ahas. Okay, so anyone who's online watching and writing comments, I can't see them up here. So if someone writes something that I need to know about, you might throw it out to me.
We'll tell you.
Yeah, sorry, that was on me. Everyone was just saying hi.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Nothing else about your business will have as big of an impact on it as the number of leads that you have. So why do we begin this session with on open houses with this quote? Your number one job is to gain leads. This is one way to impact the number of leads that you have. And why hold open houses? Hold on. Why hold open houses? What is the purpose or goal of an open house? It's to sell a house and to capture leads. As a new agent, open houses are fun, easy, and a low-cost way to find buyers. Your goal in holding an open house is not only to sell the home, it is to put yourself in the path of opportunity, the business opportunity to meet people, to add to your database, to set appointments, especially with interested buyers. For many agents, holding open houses is their number one strategy to build a strong business, and it can be yours too. Follow a proven model and buyers and sellers come to you. Other visitors may not be actively looking to buy or sell. Nevertheless, a memorable and favorable impression can generate referrals now and business further down the road. Since we're talking about open house today, it's important to know this. Before engaging in in-person activities, consult, okay, it's talking about COVID. We're not there anymore. Okay, so dispel limiting beliefs. I don't have an old listing to hold open. How do you solve that?
We have an internal Facebook page and every single day I see people on there saying, who can hold the house open for me Saturday?
Awesome.
So I think there are so many
Are you
opportunities.
talking about just the Keller Williams?
Every day I see
Yeah.
people asking, hey, who's available to hold a house open on Saturday?
Yeah,
I've
Yeah.
even like asked, like
Yeah.
just posted and said, does anybody need someone to host an open house this weekend?
yeah.
And I usually get a response from somebody.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you're saying there's not something to hold open, you are under a rock.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. Another limiting belief, I don't have signs yet.
Everybody has signs here.
Everybody has
Even
It's
signs.
ask the
fine.
market
Yeah.
center for some.
Any agent who's going to be, who has a listing and you're gonna be holding open their listing, they're gonna have open house signs for you to borrow.
If not, the market center has signs.
Yep, yep.
So go get them.
That's right. I may not know the answers to the questions visitors have.
Tell them you're gonna find out.
Yeah.
There you
You
go.
don't have to know everything.
Yep. But do your research ahead of the open house, know as much as you can about the open house. Research other homes that might be open in the area or other homes that are for sale. People coming to an open house are not always looking at that exact price point. They may be looking at a price point below or above. So know your market, know what else is out there. Especially because there have been a number of times where I've held open house. And also one thing that is not in here, well, maybe it's addressed a little bit. My favorite way to hold an open house is with another person.
I love doing that.
And part of the reason why is because I know everything else that's for sale around there. If someone walks in and they're like, well, I'm actually looking for this, this, and this. And so this open house, this particular house doesn't work for me. But if I know the market well enough and I can say, oh, I know of a listing that's a few miles down the road, let's go and see it. I can leave my partner at the open house and I can drive and show the house that I think matches what they're looking for. I have sold multiple houses during an open house, not the house I was holding open, but someone came in and told me what they were looking for, and I took them to another house and I sold it to them. So that's one big reason why, it's good to have two people at an open house so that you can leave. If you're by yourself though, you can always set up, if you're holding it 2 to 4, you can say, hey, at 4:30, I'm gonna meet you at this house. You can call, make the appointment to go see it. So if you're solo, you can still show someone open house, another house after the open house, but you have to know the market. You have to know what's available. Okay, another limiting belief, open houses don't really work because most people look online.
People don't buy houses sight unseen.
No.
They're still gonna come see it.
That's absolutely right, yeah. And, people start their search online, but they want to see things in person. And, whether they have an agent or not, almost every home buyer is gonna be looking at open houses. Another limiting belief, I won't feel safe. Okay, have someone else with you, there's a number of things that you can do, your spouse, significant other family members, everyone's gonna know where you're holding the open house because you're gonna be marketing it a lot. You might have someone else with you. There are other things that are gonna be talked about in the slides, like where to park. Anytime you're doing an open house, it's best to park in the street so that you can't get blocked in. Okay, capturing leads with open houses. Okay, we know that the 2 main goals for open houses are to sell the house and to generate leads. So let me ask you this, who does the open house benefit?
Everybody.
Absolutely. So it benefits sellers because they get to show the house to a lot of potential buyers all at one time, high exposure. It benefits buyers. They'll be able to see the house without obligation, without being qualified. Neighbors. So pretty much every open house that I do, I'll have neighbors come over and look at the house. Why would a neighbor come and look at the house?
If they want it. Or what if they want to
Possibly.
know about it to tell someone?
Or
What
to see
if they're
the
looking at
value
it
is.
because they want to compare their house
Mhm.
to what's for sale? Because maybe they're thinking about selling and it's like, what is, this house in this condition at this price, what would it take me to get my house to that condition to sell it? So a lot of times neighbors coming and looking at the house, they're either going to be just general, looky-loos is what we call them, or they might be thinking about selling. So if you have a neighbor come over, try to find out what their motivation for being there is, because it might be because they're thinking about selling. And then it benefits you, the agent, because you get to capture the leads of potential buyers, sellers, future buyers and sellers. You can connect with the neighborhood prior to the open house. So one big thing that you can do leading up to an open house is door knocking the neighborhood. A best practice for door knocking open houses is hit the 5 houses to the right, 5 houses to the left, and the 10 houses across the street. Knock on the door, have a flyer, invite them to the open house. You might go to the open house 30 minutes early and say, the first 30 minutes of the open house are for neighbors to come over and take a look at the house. There are so many different scripts that you can use when door knocking for an open house. One of them that I hear used a lot is, and it's, to me, I think it's statistically true. Anytime a for sale sign goes in a yard, a neighbor who can see that sign, at least one neighbor is going to be listing their house in the next month. So you'll see it over and over again. If you take a listing, a neighbor who can see that sign is going to be listing their house. And so when you're door knocking, you can say, hey, this house just went on the market. We're going to be holding an open house. Did you know that statistically, when a house goes for sale, at least one neighbor who can see that sign is going to be listing their house? And I just wanted to ask, is that you? Are you thinking about selling your house? So, and it's a good way to meet people, build rapport. And if they are thinking about it, it's get them in your database and set up an appointment to talk to them about listing their house. All right. It also benefits you by being able to place, if you have signs with your name on them, you can place your signs throughout the neighborhood, practice conversations, answering questions, provide value. The benefits of an open house. One of your primary benefits of an open house is that they're relatively inexpensive to host. You know, it's really, you might have some printed materials if you're printing color flyers, but the agent who has the listing might prepare the flyers for you so that you don't have to pay for that. It's a very useful prospecting tool for lead generation, meeting buyers and sellers and other agents. The main thing that you invest when preparing an open house is time. So the return on investment can be tremendous. You can generate leads, qualify leads, and potentially get a deal closed. Okay, any ahas from what we've talked about so far? And I'm probably moving fast, so I doubt we're going to fill up the whole 4 hours. Okay,
You said,
yes.
put yourself in the path of opportunity. Did you say that? Did you say that or did she write that? She might have wrote it when you were talking about sell homes and get leads, like just, I don't know, that's like that when she wrote that. I didn't know.
That's a good one. I wish I would have said it.
I'm sorry.
I think you did. I think you said
I
it.
think he
Did I
said
say
something,
it?
I think you might have read it.
Or read it, yeah. Either way, I wrote
Okay.
it down too. That was a good one.
All right, so we're going to cover why open houses are beneficial. Let's go over some of the best practices to put in place to solidify your effort. Remember the 6 personal perspectives, specifically the E to P. With everything that we do, it's essential to be purposeful in our mindset and our actions. Before your open house, set concrete and achievable goals. For example, tell yourself that your goal is to add 6 people to your database. Anytime that I'm doing an open house, my personal goal is to add 3 people to my database. So for myself, I've done open houses so many different ways where I would have a sign-in sheet, or I would have like a digital sign-in on the iPad. What I have found for myself over the years is I get the most contacts from people without having a sign-in sheet. It's by having conversations, you know, so it's almost like if you, first of all, if you have a paper sign-in sheet, most people are either going to put wrong information or they're going to leave the email address blank or the phone number blank. But if you're having a conversation with someone and you know, you're providing value and you're getting into their needs and you ask them, you know, could I get your contact information and stay in touch with you and maybe send you some homes? Most people are going to say yes to that. So for me, my best practice is not to have a sign-in sheet. It's to actually ask people for their contact information in a conversation. But it's different for everyone. So what other goals could you set for yourself before holding an open house? Oh, great.
Run through the full playbook?
Sure. And full playbook, are you talking about the seven level open house? Yeah, awesome.
Correct.
And I don't even think that they touch on the 7 level open house in here. Have all of you read what the seven level, okay. That is a good one to look at. So the goals are not just to get appointments, open houses are a great way to generate leads. Picking an open house is a critical step in the open house process. It's important to look for great and visible locations, preferably not more than 3 turns from any major road. So when I'm looking for an open house to hold, you know, you can go on the internal page and see, you know, like the Grady page or the Grady team, I think, list all their open houses every week, and you can choose one of their open houses. For me, what I have found the best way to do it is to go into the MLS and do a quick search. And in the quick search at the bottom, you can click to like add another category to search for. Have you ever done that? And then if you search for member and then listing member, or listing company and type in Keller Williams so that you can see all the listings currently from Keller Williams. Bring those up, search them by days on market, and pull it up on a map. And I will even look for a price point. You know, I don't really want to hold anything open under 200 right now. So usually somewhere between 200 and 400 is kind of the sweet spot for me holding an open house. So I'll search for Keller Williams member listings, low days on market, and a certain price point, and then I'll look them up on a map and see. I don't want to hold something that's 15, 20 miles outside of Springfield. I want it to be somewhere that's going to get a lot of traffic. And then I'll call the agent and say, hey, you just listed 123 Main Street. Do you mind if I hold it open on Sunday? Oh, you already have one on Sunday. Can I do it on Saturday? And so I'll just kind of go down the list and call agents. There are a lot of agents who take listings who do not do open houses, and they're not going to market it on our internal page asking someone to do an open house. So you can find a lot of homes to hold open if you're looking them up on the MLS instead of looking them up on our internal page. Are there any other ways that you guys have found open houses for yourself besides the internal page?
MLS is how I've done them, or if somebody says they want to.
As you prepare for the open house, you should get to know the closest shopping centers, grocery stores, coffee shops. When you're choosing your house, you don't always have to pick the most expensive house on the market or the least expensive. Consider what the average prices are selling for in your market, which in Springfield is about $250. And adjust your choice of house based on this. If the goal of an open house is to generate and qualify leads, what other things should we think about before we pick the home for our open house? Anything that we haven't discussed yet?
Are there any that come to your mind?
When picking an open house, I'd have to think about that, but I think I touched base on most of it. I look at days on market, neighborhood, definitely. So you might before you decide fully to have a house open, you might go visit it in person, look at the neighborhood. I have agreed to do open houses that looked really good online. And then I got to the open house and it's like, wow, this thing is a mess. It's dirty. It smells like dogs. You couldn't see any of that in the MLS, but in person, I was kind of taken aback and I didn't want to be there anymore. So you might go visit the house before you hold it open. And just so you know the house really well, look the house over really, really, really thoroughly. So if you see some big red flags that stick out about the house, you'll want to know about it before someone walking into the house tells you about it. So if it has a foundation issue or just something negative about the house, you're going to want to know about it ahead of time. So if someone brings it up at the open house, you can address it. Okay, before you host your open house, prepare a list of questions that you might be asked and practice your conversation starters. Some questions you might face will test your knowledge of the house and the market. Potential clients might ask why the house is for sale, when the house was last renovated, if the house has any structural issues, and how long the house has been on the market. Any other questions that you guys have ran into at open houses?
Sometimes one that gets me is like property lines. I held one open on Sunday and the lady was like, now, like just looking out the window, how far back does it go?
Sure.
And I'm like, well, that gets me every time. So I like pull up my little picture, the map, and I'm like, well, I believe it goes that far back. But then luckily the owners stopped by and then he was able to tell her, oh, it goes that far back. That always kind of gets me. I've had that happen a few times.
Okay.
Like, where exactly is the line?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So there are some good apps that you can, none that are free that I found so far. For a long time, I used an app called On Hunt X, and I think that was 20 or 30 bucks a year. And I think that was only for the state of Missouri, but any property that I was at, I could pull up the property and it would show what the property lines are. And then like if it's on 5 acres or something, I could literally walk the property lines with the app open and it would show me.
Is that what you have?
Yeah, that's what I use all the time is
Yeah.
Onyx.
I use one now that's called,
There's
Land Glide.
Glide,
Yep.
yeah.
mhm.
Onyx is really.
So Land Glide is what I use. Uh-huh. It's a little bit different than on Hunt X, and it's nationwide instead of just the state of Missouri, and it gives a little bit more information.
Yeah, Onyx is nationwide too.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, I used it in California for hunting all the time.
Okay.
And now I get to write it off, so
Mhm.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Mhm.
nice. Okay, you could also bring someone else in to host the open house with you if you have a favorite lender that you like to use, an inspector, just someone else to come in and do the open house with you. Another great reason to have a second person with you at an open house is if it is so busy. You know, I've had open houses where I've literally had over 100 people walk through. And in a 2-hour period, you can't talk to that many people, you know, 100 people, it might have been, 30, 40 groups of people, you know, but still, even having that many groups of people coming through an open house, it's really, really hard to engage with that many people. So it is great to have a second person with you, whether it's another agent or a lender or some other vendor. Also, for me, I like holding open houses with a female. And because when you have a male and a female, there are some, you know, I could talk to some people a lot easier than the female could, or the female might be able to, you know, communicate better with other females coming in the open house that I could, you know. So it's good to have 2 different personalities at the open house because you might engage with someone better than the other person could, and you can kind of tag team to have conversations with people and to gather leads. Best
I have a
practice.
question about that.
Yes, go ahead.
So if you hold a co-open house, that's what I'll call it with 2 people. How do both of you take the leads and thank them, or do you split the list? Or I'm just trying to think, because being respectful to the other person as well.
Yep. So if I'm holding an open house with another agent, we'll basically take them on as if it's a buyer lead that we capture, we'll work the buyer together.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, you know, it's essentially so that buyer has 2 agents, you know, and either of us could show houses to them. When we go under contract, we go under contract as co-agents.
Perfect.
Mhm. If you're doing it with if you're holding it with a lender or another vendor that's not an agent, then that's not an issue. Mhm.
What's your favorite? Do you prefer to do it by yourself? Do you prefer to do it with people? Do you prefer to do it with a lender?
I prefer to do it with another agent.
Yeah,
Mhm.
another agent.
Mhm.
I think that's where I've gotten.
2
I
experts.
like having, because we've had so much volume when you do them, to be able to tag team people has been, like, you feel like you make personal contacts with everybody.
Absolutely.
Their connections.
Yeah, that's what I like. I don't, I have had lenders at open houses before. I think it's fine, but you know, I also don't want to be like too pushy at an open house, you know, and you know, I don't want to seem too aggressive, you know, by having a lender there, it might sometimes be too aggressive, you know, especially if they're really trying to talk to them about, you know, their loan status and getting a loan with them and using them.
That's very personal information.
Yeah.
I have another question, so kind of along that same line. So say you did a drawing and you gathered information. Do you then, if you work that list and you follow up, do you then still split that with the other agent that was there? I'm just trying to like.
Can you ask that again?
So say you did like a drawing and they could enter and get a gift card to a
Mhm.
restaurant. And so you have a list of names. And you're gonna follow up and just say, thank you for coming to my open house, blah, 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 and say something matures out of that. Do you go back to the other agent? Maybe they didn't do any follow-up and say, hey, we've got this from our open house. And that could be 6 months later, 8 months later, 9 months later, because you're gonna just take those names, put them in your funnel. So then how do you reconcile that? Or do you say if it doesn't materialize after around the open house, then it just went into my lead gen bucket. I'm just trying to just make sure that I'm always respectful. And also for everyone who's new, how do we stay appropriate, ethical, respectful?
Mhm. I think that's a conversation that you need to have with the agent that you're holding it open
Okay.
with, what the set expectations up front.
Okay.
I have several times in the past few years had new agents shadow me at an open house, and if I'm having a new agent shadow me, it's understood that all the leads generated from the open house are mine.
Okay.
Unless we specifically made an agreement that any leads that came from the open house would be shared, so it's situational, and it's what you guys decide upfront. Mhm. But I would say that if you had open house leads in your database and you've been sending them emails and communicating with them and doing all the lead follow-up, and the other person has not done anything, I
Well, maybe
wouldn't.
I don't know that if the other person's done it.
Well, that's true. Mhm.
Because that's where I'm talking about being respectful and ethical, and I mean, always, if somebody said, oh, I've been working them too, I'd be like, oh yeah, let's just split that. Like,
Mhm.
I will always, like, it's not about the money, so let's just make sure we're good always. But just in helping everybody here, there needs to be a conversation around that. And that's what I was hoping that you would say is, because you shouldn't go in and there be an assumption.
Mhm. Yeah, so set all your boundaries up front. Mhm. Okay, online property lines, HOA info, who the builder is, and where else they are building. So I guess these are things to know ahead of time before the open house. And then they wrote, I've never had more than 7 groups go through an open house. So if I'm holding a Saturday open house, I never expect to have very many people come through. If I'm holding anything other than a 2 to 4 on Sunday, I don't expect to have very many people come through.
So
So.
you like 2 to 4 Sunday?
Mhm.
I always like to before Sunday.
Yeah.
Just because that's what everybody else thinks.
I think that's the expectation that has been set in the Springfield area for decades. Most people do Sunday 2 to 4 open
Church,
houses.
lunch,
Yeah.
open house.
Mhm, mhm. And then think about,
I
on
swear.
Seriously.
Saturdays, how many people have Saturday activities? Their kids have sports, or, they're going to the lake or whatever. So I think Saturdays are a lot more busy for people than a Sunday afternoon is. So if I do it on Saturday, I like to do like a 1 to 3, but if I'm doing anything other than Sunday, I can expect to maybe have one to 5 groups come through, but I know on a Sunday open house, depending on what it is I'm holding open, I always prepare for 20 to 30 groups usually. Mhm.
That's a big difference in what I've been seeing.
Mhm. Okay, best practice during an open house, have the visitors sign up upon arrival of the open house. Some agents even make this a requirement, stating it as a safety measure. You can even ask them to leave something of value when they tour the home, like their car keys or driver's license. I think that's a terrible
I
idea.
think that's
Oh
awful.
my gosh.
I think everybody would turn around and walk out.
Can I please have your cell phone?
Yeah.
Can I keep your firstborn? I noticed you brought your firstborn, and I'll just hold on to that. It's collateral.
Can I?
I'm just gonna put it in this
That's so
closet. real
weird.
quick.
With all these other babies.
I have this walker. We're gonna put your kid in there and your car keys and your wallet.
We're holding you hostage and you don't know it.
So how do you do sign-up sheets?
I do a QR code that I just have either on my computer screen or I've printed it, and I just say, hey, scan the QR code, fill out, it's literally just name, email, and then there's 3 questions. Are you a realtor?
Mhm.
Yes or no? Are you looking for a home? I mean, it's 3 simple questions. And they scan it on their QR code and I have their information.
Okay, so it's a landing page on their phone. Did you build that through command?
I built it through Google. It's
Okay.
just a Google
Oh, Google
form.
form. Okay, cool.
But I need to figure out how to build it through command.
You can build a landing page through command and do the same thing.
Okay,
And then the leads go
Okay.
directly into your database.
so I don't have to retype them.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm gonna do that.
All right, what does everybody else use?
Landing page from command on an iPad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
I just know, like, in the COVID era, people would not have wanted to use the same iPad, so that's why I did the QR code, but you can QR code to that landing page.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that QR codes are actually being used a lot more now. I tried using QR codes early in my career, you know, in the mid 2000s. And when QR codes kind of first came out, but you couldn't use a camera yet, you had to like download a QR code app on your,
Reader.
yeah, and so
Oh, yeah.
they've really, you know, you see QR codes a lot more now than you used to, and I like that. Does anybody still use Sheets?
Yeah.
I do have some.
Does that work well for you?
I've gone back and forth with it. Like first I was just doing the sign up sheet and, you know, people, like you said, they don't put down the right information.
Or you can't read their handwriting?
And you can't read the handwriting. They do that on purpose too. And then there's some where, well, and then I did a feedback form. And even though I would have some people kind of like snub their nose at it, I did get some pretty good leads out of the feedback forms too.
That was the thing I liked about the Google Sheets,
Uh-huh.
the Google form, is you know you have a Google email.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So at minimum, their email is correct.
yeah, that's true.
So
I like that idea a lot.
So the feedback forms, did you have like a clipboard with that you sent them with the open house and they
Yeah,
could
because I'll
fill
have
it
like
out?
the MLS on it
Mhm.
and then the feedback form. And then like in my last open house, I even had the seller's disclosure with it too. So I
Okay.
had like 5 of those printed out so that each person had their own. I mean, I'd make them give it back to me, but yeah, they.
So that worked really well for you?
Yeah.
Good.
So instead of keeping their car keys, you just need that clipboard back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Brian Stone uses the feedback form on a
Mhm.
clipboard. Mhm. So I've heard that works really well. I should try that. Mhm. And then so with your paper, you just, after the open house, just enter everybody into
Yeah.
command?
Mhm.
Mhm. How do you guys communicate with people who came through your open house after the open house?
I try to send at least an email out or a text. So sometimes if I know I'm gonna be super busy the rest of the day, I'll send a quick text message. Hey, just wanted to say thank you for coming through.
Yeah.
Here's my contact information, so you also have it.
Mhm.
That's what I do.
Were you all here with the last trainer presenter right before
Mhm.
Ignite? Okay,
Daily.
so, you know,
The video.
The videos, so I do videos.
Yeah.
So at the end of the open house, everyone that came through, I will record a video and say their name in the video, you know, hey, Jeff, thank you so much for coming through the open house. And I'll film it like in the living room in front of the fireplace or something. So I'm still at the open house. I say their name in the video, thank them for coming through and just send them a quick, 5-10 second video. Works really well.
Yeah, we have a smart plan that we set up. It's like, we'll get their information and then it's a text, an email, a phone call, text, phone call, text, phone call, until we can get a hold of them. And if we just don't, then we automatically archive it, but it's
Nice.
just getting back.
So you have a smart plan that's set up in command, so do you just have to tag them a certain way and it starts the smart plan, or do you have to assign the smart plan?
Well, you just assign the smart plan, you'll get, because it's a landing page, so it'll come in as an open house lead.
Okay,
And then you can look at all your new leads and then you just mass add them to that smart plan. It automatically sends a text, automatically throws them on a task list to give them a call. If you can get them a hold of them, then you got other information and then they go into the next part of the funnel. But then if you can't, then I mean, you keep running them through it and then you take them off the smart plan if you get a hold of them, but
Mhm.
you just keep running them through, kind of getting a hold of them. And if it exhausts, then.
Yeah. So the text message goes automatically through command, so you have Twilio connected to it. Can you make phone calls through that number as well?
You can make phone calls through the command app.
Mhm.
Through the app, okay.
I wouldn't.
I love the command app. It's amazing.
Yeah,
And
I,
track your notes through the,
Uh-huh.
after that phone call through the command app.
if I make a phone call, it's. I don't want to waste my Twilio credits or whatever. It's like 3 credits a minute or something like
Oh, is it?
that. Yeah, it's crazy. I made one phone call for 5 minutes and then it just like 30 credits were missing or something like that. I was
Oh, wow.
like, geez. So
So I don't use command. I use,
Nicole is gonna murder you.
well, I want to move my stuff back over to command. So essentially what happened was command came out and it couldn't do everything that I wanted it to do. And so I use Follow Up Boss, and Follow Up Boss does everything that I needed it to do, including, you know, I can make phone calls through Follow Up Boss and it records every phone call. So if I want to go back and also, you know, the phone number is through Twilio, but I don't have to pay for credits or anything. It's just part of my package. But I can go back and any phone call that I've ever made to any prospect, if I'm, you know, going through, you know, doing lead gen and I want to know what we talked about last time, I'll have my notes in there, but I can also re-listen to our conversation, and that's super
That's
super
huge,
helpful.
yeah.
Yeah, so I wish command had that.
Maybe we need to submit that as a
You need to
suggestion.
submit that so that they can do that.
Yeah, ideas.kw.com.
Mhm.
yeah, I just take a bunch of notes and then just talk to text them into the notes for the call.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
that'd be awesome if like, we would record the call.
Okay, Sam said I have what I call a report card, asks for contact info and allows them to give feedback on the home. I put them on tiny clipboards. Good idea. Sounds like about the same thing as a feedback form.
And you said you don't do anything like that? You just get their contact information the old fashioned way?
Yep, I asked for it.
Yeah.
Then you need what she has. I just bought it. It's like ingenious.
Oh, the dot card. Do you have dot card?
No,
Oh,
Oh.
you'll want dot card.
okay.
Yeah, so dot
Yeah,
card,
dot card,
I
you want
hide
that.
mine under my
Look.
case just in case I
Show 'em.
change cases. But,
I'll have to do it. Well, do it to somebody else that doesn't have your information.
so the only thing I don't, where's your phone? The only thing I don't like about this is that gives them my information.
Oh, but you don't get theirs.
And so then I use my QR code to get theirs. But
Okay,
it's a lot easier for me to give you all my information just by having you text.
Now we just need to do
Now,
it like.
now, if I want to make sure I get their information,
My screensaver.
I tell them, I send I have a contact in my phone and I say, well, here, I'll just let you text my information to yourself and give them my phone and let them enter their phone number.
Mhm.
So then at least I have their phone number.
Okay.
So it kind of goes both ways.
This guy's techie junior. He needs to like come to my house.
I'm gonna
You love my
pause
voice,
for
ARH.
5 minutes. I have to make a phone call. I have a contractor who said, call me ASAP.
Uh-oh, please, please. What's the rule? Always comes first.
Yeah, if you're gonna make money on a phone call.
Yeah, we
Yeah, go
can learn this.
Did you go to command?
It's just my business card
Oh,
Up
yeah.
here,
Yeah.
right there.
Mhm.
your
on
business
top,
card.
And you just
Okay.
click
And
on that and then that like autofills the
That's from
information,
Command.
just like
Yeah.
hers.
Yeah.
Except,
And
So
then
that's
I
on
just,
Command.
so I just
Snapshot
took,
of
I just
it,
screenshot
And then
it,
make it a.
cropped it,
And
and
make it your
then
screen.
put it
saver.
into a
Screensaver,
Canva
right,
thing
yeah.
and made it a
Mhm.
screensaver.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but
That's a good idea.
it's the same, it's not my idea.
I'm a little slow on the draw.
So
Most of this
that
is not.
QR code that I use at the open house, most of the time, I just literally open up my computer and just leave it sitting there and people are like, oh, what's the QR code? I
Right.
don't even
Mhm.
tell them.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, yeah, you can scan it if you want. It's incognito QR code.
That's fantastic.
Okay,
That was
so,
quick.
well, he didn't answer.
Oh,
So he called me multiple times and sent me text messages, so,
Well, if he calls you again, you just pick it up.
well, I have, well.
Turn it on so you can
All
hear
right.
it.
I have my notifications turned off right now. Let me,
we won't be mad at
see,
you.
okay.
We're not haters in here.
Yeah, your business card. And there you go. right
We won't even pass judgment on you.
Yeah.
See?
Door.
Take a picture of it. There you go.
Y'all,
Done.
mic dropped. I learned all I needed to know in this class. It's time to go.
Oh, no.
Sam, are you getting this? Cause it's like good stuff, sister.
We'll catch you up, Sam. We love you.
Yeah, so I don't personally use a sign-in sheet right now. I've tried the paper sign-in sheets. I found that they just didn't work well enough for me. I've tried the iPad. I even have a really nice professional iPad stand where it has the flyer holder and then the iPad on top. What I found with that is people don't know how to use it. You know, like I'll have whatever I'm using for my open house. There are different apps, or my website has a landing page for open houses, but it takes them way too long to try to type out their name and phone number and email, and people get frustrated and they'll walk away in the middle of filling it out, and they're just like, oh, I just don't even want to, deal with this. And it sets a tone for the open house. If someone gets frustrated at your technology, and it's harder to have a good, meaningful conversation with them, if they come into the open house and they're just already flustered, so I've just found, for me, it works a lot better if I try to engage people in conversations and ask them for their contact information, because I don't necessarily want to get contact information for someone who is already working with an agent. So, if someone, is just really distant and just is not wanting to engage with me, then, I'll just let them be, but if someone is engaging with me and talking with me and answering questions, then I can always lead them to the point where I can ask them for their contact information so that I can follow up with them. So for me, it's a more natural way of doing it. I have better results from it. And that way, also, if someone just fills out their information on a sign-in sheet or on an iPad or something, they won't always answer your calls later, but if you had a conversation with them and you asked them permission to contact them, they're a lot more likely to answer your phone calls and talk to you in the future. So for me, it just works better. The time you choose for the open house is important. When you know your market well and have connected with it, picking the right time to host the open house should be simple. Open houses have been known to work in any market at all dates and times. So know your market in order to drive the most traffic through your open house. We've talked about that. Picking the time for the open house goes hand in hand with picking a theme. If you're having your open house on a Sunday afternoon during a football game, know the game scores, or even have the game on TV. I have done open houses before where people will come in and ask me about the game, and it's like, but I don't actually follow sports, so I don't know.
Oh, no.
I know. So I have a that's like, if someone comes in talking sports, I try to fake it, but I don't know anything about it.
Go Chiefs.
Just look at baseball season.
Just
Yeah.
refer to me.
Go
I'll give you
Royals.
25%.
Cardinals.
I think I lost where we were.
Yeah. My husband's from KC, so it's Kansas City Royals, but he's a Raiders fan. He does not. like the
Oh.
Chiefs.
Yeah, that's like evil.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, what are the benefits of holding an open house at the same time? How about them Bears? Jacqueline. What are the benefits of holding an open house at the same time as other open houses? You might attract people looking at other open houses in the neighborhood. Benefits of open houses at a non-traditional time. You might attract clients that don't normally attend open houses because of their own scheduling conflicts. Non-traditional time. So Sunday 2 to 4 is a traditional time. If you're holding it open at a non-traditional time, it may be because of location. So let's say you have there's a house for sale that is really close to a school, and school lets out at 3 o'clock, and you know that there's going to be a lot of traffic going by that house, about 3 o'clock. You might hold an open house, during that time to try to capture, any parents going to pick up their kids. That could be one. Some agents will just hold an open house randomly in the middle of the day, house open, on Thursday from, 1 to 5 or something, just to try to capture anyone at that time. And you may not get a lot of traffic, but it's really, you could view it as your work time. You can go in with your computer and your phone and do your lead gen from an open house Okay, Jacqueline said my busiest open house was an evening, 4 to 7 PM, and that was with 7 groups. Okay, if you've been practicing connecting with and knowing your market, then gathering the neighborhood stats for your open house will be fast. Okay, Jacqueline said my weekend day ones have been very small lately. Okay, helpful things to know about the neighborhood before hosting the open house are location information provided by the school district, employment information, recreation nearby, traffic and commute times.
You do all that?
No.
Okay, good. That's all I needed.
Well, what other things might people coming to the open house want to know about the area?
School district probably.
I was thinking
or-
school district.
Yeah.
Mhm, that's a big one.
Mhm.
You know, if they have kids, it may be how far away is the nearest park, or, you know, does the neighborhood have a community pool?
HOA.
HOA.
Yeah,
HOA is a
HOA
big
fees,
one.
definitely.
Mhm.
Mhm. Okay, and then be safe. Use the buddy system, arrive early, park on the street, check all entrances and exits, make sure your cell phone is fully charged, turn on the lights. Follow market center guidelines and checklists for open houses.
Okay.
Using a buddy system can mean having another person with you at the open house. In addition, you should always let someone else know where you're at. Consider having your GPS location with a friend, partner, and even with your market center. Parking on the street prevents your car from being blocked in. We don't have to go over all the safety things. Okay, any ahas about anything that we've covered so far?
Like the little QR code. I was kind of messing with that here.
Yeah, I might try that one too.
QR code, and I liked the Sunday 2 to 4 better than Saturdays.
Mhm.
So. And the gift card where somebody said it, the gift card with their information. You can advertise it, but you can have it when you're there,
A gift card with,
like a $25 gift card, and they have to enter their stuff.
oh, like a drawing, a raffle. Yeah, you can't advertise a raffle to get someone to the open house, but
Right.
you could do something at the open house, because you can't have any inducements.
Yeah.
Mhm. How do you talk about raffles? You can't talk about raffles, that was a question from Jacqueline. You can't talk about raffles before the open house, you can't market a raffle, but you can have a raffle at an open house as a way to get someone's contact information. Okay, so the next portion is prepare, prospect, and pursue. The difference between big and really big is how you manage your time and your focus. Okay, Jacqueline says raffles are like a fight club. We do not talk about raffles. Gotcha. Use a prepare, prospect, and pursue model to approach your open house. Prepare. Okay, remember the goal for your open house is to get appointments with active buyers and sellers. To be at your best and achieve what you've set out for yourself, take preparation. Schedule preparation time during the week before your open house so that you can ensure that you capture leads and set appointments. You'll spend more time preparing for the open house than you will be hosting the open house. Prepare your mindset beforehand. Set high and achievable goals. Remove limiting beliefs. Focus on your success. Believe in yourself. Practice conversations for greeting people, answering questions, capturing contact information. Okay, so how many leads do you guys have a goal of how many leads you want to capture at an open house?
I would like to get at least 3 if possible,
Mm-hmm.
or more.
Do you have scripts that you use at an open house?
Not really, just trying.
Let's try to be organic.
Mhm.
Ask them what they're looking for.
Initially, sure, I guess, but then afterwards, you just try and feel where the conversation is going. But I would also say it's like, I don't know, if you have a good phone call script, it's kind of almost the same exact thing.
Mhm.
Hey, how you doing? You have a realtor? Are you interested in buying, selling in the market, just looking,
Mhm.
whatever, and then going to forward and see if you can't get a conversation out of them and start a relationship.
Mhm. So I would say never ask someone if they have an agent. Not directly like that, because that's an easy yes or no question and they can say yes and move on. You know, so there are other ways that you can ask it without directly asking it.
Who's your agent?
Sometimes, and I think my approach to it is depending on how the conversation is going, you know, so when I have very typical questions that I ask when someone comes in, and I ask it in a way that's very organic, you know, but you know, someone will come into the open house and you know, I'll say, hey, my name is Chris, here's a flyer, take a look around and let me know if you have any questions about anything, you know, so I introduce myself, you know, if they give me their name, I'll jot it down really quickly. But then I let them go and they're walking through the house, but they're gonna pass by me again. And so the first time that they pass by me, I'll say, so are you looking at a lot of opens today? And so their answer to that will lead me to my next question. So if they say, yeah, we're seeing, you know, 4 or 5, you know, opens today, that tells me that they are very active buyers. You know, they're looking at all the open houses that they can. And so I'll take that in a direction where I'm going to be asking them about representation, you know, so it could be something like, are you just looking in this particular area, or is there a school district? And so I'll start asking questions about what they're searching for and what type of opens they're going to. And I might say something like, so, you know, outside of looking at open houses on Sundays, how else are you getting into houses to see them? That's asking if they have an agent, you know, so if they say, well, we just started looking, you know, so we're just looking at opens right now. And I'll say, oh, great, so you don't have an agent. I'll ask it that way. Well, no, we don't have an agent just yet. We're just starting. That's awesome. Well, I'll tell you, I'm your new agent, and I'll hand them my card and I'll say, I'm going to be working with you. And then I'll start asking questions about what they're looking for. And I'll set up a search, and I have closed so many deals by telling someone that I'm their agent. So,
Really?
yep. Have confidence at an open house, you know, and if someone really doesn't have an agent that they're working with, and you tell them, you know, I'm your new agent, you know, and people have told me at closing, I use you because you showed so much confidence at the open house, you know, and you told me that we were going to be working with you. And so we did, and you were a great agent. And that line works. Okay, so if I ask someone if they're, you know, if they're looking at a bunch of opens and they say, no, we're just looking at this one, you know, then I know that they're either a neighbor coming in to look at the house, or, you know, they're looking online and they just zoomed in and pinpointed on this house. So, you know, maybe this is the one that they want to buy. You know, I'll lead the conversation in that direction a little bit. So there are some opening lines that I use, you know, and you know, I'll ask different things at different times as they're walking through the open house, but I try to always get to the point where I know whether or not they're working with an agent. And if they are working with an agent, then I respect that and I let them go. I have been in situations where during an open house, you know, I'll be talking about the house, be talking about the market, be talking about other homes that are listed, and know that someone is working with someone else, but then I'll get a phone call the next day. And I've had this happen a few times where someone will call me and say, listen, I learned so much more about the market and houses just by having a brief conversation with you at that open house than I ever did from my agent who's showing me stuff. So I would like to work with you. And so if someone comes to me and says, I don't want to work with that agent anymore, I want to work with you, then I think, you know, I think that's acceptable, especially if they don't have a signed agreement with someone else. So if you come from value and you produce a lot of knowledge and you're confident and you are the professional, you may just not steal someone from another agent, but, you know, a client may decide that they want to work with you because of your personality and your knowledge. Okay, so this kind of goes into the 7-level open house, where you're preparing for an open house for a week. It's not really a model that I think that we can use in our market right now, because if a house is a good house priced well, it's not gonna last a week. When I take listings, I try to list my house on a Thursday or Friday so that I can schedule at least one open house either on Saturday or Sunday. Typically, I'll list my houses on a Friday, have a Sunday open house scheduled, and I normally get a contract, right after the open house. So my listings, I don't think that I've had a listing. Most of them don't last, more than 3 or 4 days, because I try to price them well, but I do like to try to get at least one open house out of every listing, because that is, with any listing, you should be able to produce one buyer, not a buyer for that particular house, but through your marketing efforts or the open house that you're holding, you should be able to get at least one buyer from every listing that you have. Okay, so after you've done the hard work, like picking your house, know the next few steps will involve maximizing potential client traffic at your open house. A lot of this will involve posting online in the days leading up to the open house. 93% of buyers will use a website to find a house, so go where the people are. Post online about your open house. Walk participants through the days leading up to the open house. Remember the do not call list. You can get lots of good information from neighbors by door knocking, asking what they love about the neighborhood. So, this is showing, Monday, select your house, Tuesday, go online, walk the neighborhood, invite neighbors to the showing. Wednesday, post online, install yard signs. Be careful about yard signs. There are some, I think in Nixa, you can only have a yard sign up for 48 hours. So I believe that's true. So if you're holding something open in Nixa, I don't think that you can put a sign up before like Friday evening. Springfield, I don't think has those rules, but certain subdivisions do. There are some subdivisions where they will literally remove all of your directional signs. So some of them, especially higher end neighborhoods, I would probably not put up directional signs until like you're going to the open house. Thursday, post online again, invite the database. Friday, post online, post online, post online. So how do you guys market your open houses?
On social media, all avenues, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook.
Okay. Has anyone ever come to an open house because of your social media post?
Nope.
But it does show that you are an agent.
Right.
So kind of the point of doing your personal social media posts is to show the world, show your connections that you are an active real estate agent, you're doing open houses, you're doing showings, you're putting stuff under contract. And so just by having that presence in your own social media, you're going to pick up clients, in the future by posting a lot there. But none of them are coming to your open house. However, if you have a business page and you do a paid advertisement on social media for the open house, that will bring people to the open house. So have any of you, do all of you have a business page? And have you ever done a paid advertisement on, okay. So those tend to work well. I used to do a lot of Facebook ads and Google ads, and I've got a ton of contacts. I think I have over 3,000 people on my database. The majority of them came from doing ads on Facebook. So Jacqueline says, yes, Facebook leads.
Yeah.
So you run ads for Facebook leads?
Yeah, our team does,
What's your success at it?
It's like a 1 to 3% conversion.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it's not great, but they're like, Oh gosh, what was her name? She came in here and talked about like getting leads. She called them slutty leads. But it's like,
yeah, Monica.
it's pretty factual because it's just like. I remember, what was it, last week, I called a guy and I asked him if he had an agent and he said, yeah, about 12 of them. You know, so I mean,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, Facebook leads, I quit paying for Facebook leads because I couldn't convert enough of them. And, you know, so I have 3,000 in my database and most of them came from Facebook leads, but they're such cold leads, you know, it's not someone that you've met in person. It's, you know, someone that just clicked on an ad online because there was a pretty picture of a house that they wanted to see. And they're not necessarily in the market to buy right now. However, on Friday, I had a closing and that buyer has been in my database for 3 years. And I just send stuff to them periodically. And they just called me out of the blue one day, wanted to go see a house, and we looked at a few and went under contract. And that was a cold Facebook lead that I've just been, you know, drip marketing to for 3 years. So
I was gonna say 90% of them, if we call them and they actually answer the phone, it's, hey, I know, so I got your information because you were looking at our listing on Facebook. I would just want to know, were you just, you know, scrolling through Facebook or are you actually in the market right now? And most of them will tell you, oh, I was just scrolling. And so it's like, well, cool. Can I get your permission to stay in touch with you? And then we'll just shoot them. We'll shoot them like our monthly email, quarterly call kind of deal and just stay in touch.
yeah. Yep. So it's a numbers game. It's you know, the more people you have in your database, the more houses you're going to sell. And the more often you communicate with people in the database, some of them will eventually convert into a buyer or seller, you know, but it takes a lot of follow up, you know. What clients like to know? Clients like to know community neighborhood information, relocation information, first-time buyer specifics, and mortgage information. Does everyone have a preferred lender that they work with? It's really good to have a good relationship with the lender. I work with Jack Langley Gershman, and he's on his boat every Saturday and Sunday, but he will answer my call any time of the day or night on the weekends, and he has his computer with him all the time, and he will get me a pre-approval letter on a Saturday evening if I need him to, if I, you know, met someone who wants to write a contract. So it's good to have a lender who will go above and beyond for you. Jack Lane uses Sarah Appleby. Who does Sarah Appleby work for?
USA Mortgage.
USA, okay. Yep. So yeah, USA, you know, I've done several transactions with them and they're really good. People that come to the open house and tend to know community and neighborhood information. Remember, they're buying a lifestyle. So be a community service real estate expert by knowing your market. Become familiar with the neighborhood, learn the names of like the park down the street and popular restaurants. If you can, study the neighborhood history, explore and utilize the KW apps to maximize your lead generation and follow-up. What other things about the neighborhood might be useful to know before you're hosting your open house?
If there is an HOA, if it is, how much does it cost?
And what does it cover?
If like you see, maybe there's no fences or things like that, maybe know some of the rules with an HOA or just neighborhood rules.
Yeah, and then what does common area maintenance mean? I get that a lot because a lot of HOAs say common area maintenance. People often choose to move to growing areas. This is where neighborhood information will be important. What's something convenient about the neighborhood that you live in that you would like in the next neighborhood that you move to? Maybe that's something that you would ask someone. Knowing financial and mortgage information is also something visitors might want to ask about. I get asked about, okay, Jacqueline says HOA papers at the open house has been a benefit to me. Serious buyers do skim through it. Neighborhood features, parks, regular events. Some neighborhoods do have regular events. I'm out at Fremont Hills, and Fremont Hills has events constantly. Okay, so knowing financial information, it goes into Keller Mortgage. Has anyone ever looked into Keller Mortgage or used it? Do you know anything about it? It's, I don't know if they still do, but they used to offer, I don't remember how much. Anyone that was getting a loan over $150,000, I think they were given like $1,000 towards their closing cost or something. And they always had competitive interest rates. I've used them several times, and Keller Mortgage is actually a very, very easy mortgage company to work with. So if you haven't, you might just look into it. Brush up on the home buying process. Open houses are a great place for first-time buyers, and they'll likely have a lot of questions. Get your visitors to download and use the KW app to leverage leads. The more familiar you are with first-time home buyer specifics, the more questions you'll be able to answer at your open house. You don't have to know everything there is to know about mortgage information, just know enough to get them down the road, like what the general interest rates are right now. Okay, so let's talk about first-time home buyers and mortgages. Do you know of any programs that are more specific for, geared towards first-time home buyers?
There's the down payment assistance program that the city does in certain areas in Springfield, and then the MHDC as well.
MHDC. Mhm. There are also some lenders who will do a zero down program. What is the, I can't think of the name of the bank right now. There's a bank in Springfield that will do, it's not a zero down, the buyer has to come up with $500, but that could be going towards closing costs or inspection, appraisal. As long as they bring in $500, they have to be income, it's either income based or neighborhood based. So if a buyer is low to moderate income, then they can buy anywhere in Springfield. If the neighborhood is a low to moderate income neighborhood, then anyone, no matter what their income is, can buy with that zero down program. Bancorp South, but they changed their name to Cadence Bank. So Cadence Bank has that program. It's called Right at Home, at with the at symbol. And it's a really good program. So if I meet a buyer at an open house who doesn't have money for a down payment, but they can come up with $500, I could move them from being a renter into being a homeowner for $500. They can't get into their next rental house for that much. So you might look into some of those. The city has some programs. I need to know more about that because I don't know about the down payment assistance through the city. But I have used MHDC, which is where the state of Missouri will basically gift you. It is a gift, but it's technically a second mortgage for the 3.5% down that they're providing you, which drops off after like 5 years or something. I have had buyers who use the MHDC who sold like 2 years later. And they still, even though technically they were supposed to pay it back, they were never asked to pay it back. So that one's a pretty good program too.
MHDC?
MHDC, Missouri Housing Development Coalition or something. And it's through the state of Missouri.
The down payment assistance, it's up to $150K. And it's basically a loan. However, if they've lived in the house for 5 years or more, then that loan's forgiven for the down payment.
Good.
So they,
So it's only for certain neighborhoods in Springfield?
yeah, there's only certain neighborhoods, like mainly in the north, west part.
Mhm.
I've got a whole map outline upstairs in the office, but yeah. I actually did one, and my client was on top of things. Like there's a class that they have to take
Uh-huh.
and it's basically just runs through finances and what to do and all the way to how to have a checking account.
Mhm.
Because you know, a lot of people just don't know.
Yeah,
So she was pretty bored with it, but she had to do it for the city. And then, and after she got done with that, then she was approved for 150 and they got her in a house.
that's great.
Christina Ferrante with Flat Branch, or I think it's 417 now.
She was here today.
So is it any bank who can use that program?
I think so.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just went, Christine and I worked together with it
Mhm.
on this one here and it worked out really well.
Good.
And then Hawthorne Bank has a really good first-time homebuyer program where they'll waive the PMI.
Oh, really?
They have to be, there's like certain things that they have to meet in order for that to happen, but
So is that an in-house loan then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, the Cadence Bank one, the Right at Home, is also an in-house loan. So it's zero down. They have to come up with $500. It's also a no PMI loan. So the interest rate is usually just a touch higher, maybe half a point higher than what other banks are offering for like an FHA, but because there's no PMI, it's basically a wash, you know, so really, really good program for a lot of first-time home buyers. All right, if you read the MREA, then you've heard of leads, listings, and leverage. Open houses are all about leads, leads, leads. An open house is a great prospecting tool that requires mostly time as an investment. Let's look at some of the ways that you can use open houses to prospect for leads. An important part of the open house is to build trust and rapport with the foot traffic that visits the house. Ways that you can do this are greet everyone that comes in the door, even the kids and the dogs. Ask visitors, what brought you in today? What are you looking for in a home or neighborhood, price range? Have you looked at other open houses? Would you like to know more about the market or neighborhood? What do you like about this house that I can share with others? Always be positive, upbeat. Remember that clients are thinking about their future and lifestyle. Be a positive force in their imagination. It's important to meet the clients where they are. If visitors don't seem interested in engaging with you, match their energy and let them be. During an open house, it's important to demonstrate and provide value. You can do this in several ways, and the most obvious is to know your numbers. When you get to the day of the open house, make sure that you know your stats or that of your team or your market center. Know your market stats, how many days a house has been on the market, the price, number of houses sold in the neighborhood, and for what price. Understand personality types and conversion styles of different people. Did they engage with you when you greeted them, mirror their behavior and match their energy and interest levels? So what are some things that you're able to offer visitors when they come to your open house? I know a lot of people, I know some agents who will just go all out and have, you know, the cookies and the drinks and the snacks. And do you guys do anything like that in your open houses?
Yes,
Do you?
homemade cookies breaks the ice real fast.
Okay. So
They come in,
works
they're
well.
like, don't talk to me, and then you're like, you want a cookie?
All right.
They're-
Do you bake them in the house so it smells?
I wish, no.
Anybody do anything
If
else?
that was possible, that would be totally awesome.
I've tried it a few times where I will have, you know, bottles of water and I'll have different types of snacks. You know, I'll go to Walmart or something and buy a carton of cookies or what I found is that I ended up bringing most of it home for my kids to eat. So if you can get people to take your cookies, that's great. I never had real
I did
good.
homemade, I didn't do box, so
Yeah.
I did make them homemade.
Okay.
And so,
Bottled water is kind of sitting on like the bar, like in a fridge or something like that. Yeah,
And I've seen some agents who will have their own labels made for their water.
mhm.
correct.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you guys do that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yep, good ideas. Jacqueline does mini sodas and Rice Krispie treats. Mini sodas and Rice Krispie treats seem to be best at her open houses. I don't do anything anymore. I don't have any snacks or drinks. I just try to have good conversations. Okay, there's plenty of participants that can offer the visitor. There's plenty that the participants can offer the visitors to the open house. Tell them examples. I'm gonna skip that. Consider partnering with a local business for a small discount on services, a raffle prize. When you choose to do any kind of contest or raffle, keep in mind, oh yeah, just inducements. One of the primary uses of the KW apps is to be able to organize and consolidate lead information before, during, and after open houses. Make sure you capture information and qualify leads. There are several ways that you can do this. Have a sign-in sheet, customize a landing page in Command, have it available on an iPad, offer the KW app, ask probing forward questions, who, what, where, when, and why. You are here to get leads and appointments, so ask for their business and referrals and don't be attached to the outcome. Remember, the goal of an open house is to generate leads and sell houses. Make sure that you follow up and convert leads after an open house so your time investment pays off. It's time to pursue your leads. Reconnect with all of your visitors. It's a good practice after the open house to immediately update their database with contact information and notes, their motivations, tags for smart plans in neighborhoods. After that, it's time to connect with the visitors, reach out to them and thank them for coming, ask if they're enjoying the KW app in their search for a new house, ask if they have any further questions. And I love that you use a landing page through Command and it automatically, you get them set up on a smart plan. I think that's awesome. Great way to do it. Yeah. Okay, plan an open house. Do you have an activity in your guide about planning an open house where you're filling something out?
It does, yes.
All right, I will let you guys do that on your own time. Any ahas from anything that we've covered so far?
So right now in this market, what's a good lead out time to start looking for like a Sunday open house, would you say? Because if I'm looking at something on Monday to do the full 7 steps, I'm not gonna get there if it's like 250K in Ozark.
Yeah.
2 turns off the main road, like in Fremont Hills,
Mhm.
it's going like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like,
I would say, for me personally, I try to look for an open house on a Thursday or Friday. Yeah. If you find one that doesn't already have an open house scheduled on a Thursday or Friday, then there's a good chance that you can get it if you call the agent. You know, again, there are a lot of agents who list houses who just don't care about doing an open house, but they'll let you do it.
Do
So
you try to stay within Keller Williams or will you do any?
I stay within Keller Williams, but I do know of agents who will do open houses for any company. And it works well for those agents to do that. So there's no rule about not being able to hold an open house for a Murney agent or something. But a lot of those agents won't let you.
Really?
Some of them won't, yeah. So, yeah, if you can find someone, you know, a house that's a Keller Williams listing, I would start there and you know, but if you found a really cool house that is not being held open, you can always call that agent and ask to hold it open.
I believe Jacqueline asked a question.
Okay.
I would also like to hear the answer to.
Okay, I would like some examples of how you start conversations with people coming into your open house. So again, I think I already said, I'll ask them how many open, if they're looking at a lot of opens today, based on that, I can go down different roads. I'll casually ask, how long have you been in the market for a house? And if they say, oh, we just started looking, then I'll try to get to whether or not they have an agent. Or, well, we've been looking for, 6 months. I've had someone tell me, oh, we've been looking for 5 years. And, if someone says something like that, it's like, they're not real serious. If they've been looking for 5 years, they're probably not gonna be buying a house anytime soon. And then I'll just start asking them, questions about the house that they're looking for. Are you looking at a specific neighborhood or school district? Some people have, if they're in Roundtree Elementary, they need to stay in Roundtree Elementary. And so that there's, just a certain geographic area that they're looking for. And I do have I have a sheet that has, that's like a buyer lead sheet that has a lot of questions for me to ask as well. I use that more for if I'm actually qualifying a buyer to work with. Gosh, I don't have my questions like written down, what I ask people, but you think if there's any more that I ask. If any come to me, I'll shout it out, but that's kind of where I start, is how long have they been looking? How do they get it? How do they get into houses if they're looking at houses outside of an open? That gets me into whether or not they have an agent. I don't know. And just any questions that you ask, just, be natural about it. Any questions that I ask, even though I ask the same things over and over and over and over again, I developed those because those were kind of the scripted things that I asked that worked best for me. And, you may have your own things that you come up with.
I really like how do you get into doors that are not open houses?
Mhm.
That's really good.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, because then they'll say, oh, Bobby Sue is my realtor and she shows me.
yeah.
And so, if they say it directly like that, then, and some people will tell me, oh yeah, I have an agent. And I'll say, oh, great, who is it? And then they can't think of anybody. But if you can get someone to say, I don't have an agent, then try that line. Well, you do now, I'm your agent. And then start asking them more questions about what they're looking for and write down what the responses are. Usually after an open house. So I'll have my notepad with all my notes about anybody that came in and I had conversations with. I will just go directly to my computer and start inputting everybody and typing out our conversations. And I'll sometimes do the video, thank you for coming through, set them up on a smart plan. If I've asked them what they're looking for and they've told me, price point or area, whatever, then I go into the MLS and I set up a search for them right then. So they immediately start getting houses. And then when I know that they've been getting some emails of houses, I'll be able to call them and ask if they liked anything that I've sent to them or if I need to change anything, and just stay in contact with them. I don't do as many open houses as I used to now. I kind of got out of I used to do open houses every single week. And after COVID in 2020, I really quit doing open houses. I do them here and there, but not as regularly as I used to. When I was doing them pre-2020, I think that I was averaging 1 closing per open house.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And that was averaging 3 contacts per open house, but just staying in touch with people. Lead follow up, so yeah, I had really good stats with open houses, so I don't know why I'm not doing them now. So, put out as many directionals as you can. And then I also use, have you seen the flags on the poles? I do those, and, you know, some people do balloons, but the flags last forever. I bought mine, you know, over a decade ago, and they were $8 a piece back then. I think they're probably, you know, 10 or 12 bucks each right now. There's a flag shop on Battlefield near Campbell that sells them. They're super cheap, and I put them, I don't put them by every directional, but if it's a major intersection, I'll try to put one there, and I'll put, you know, 2 of them in the yard on either side of the open house sign. I do a lot of online marketing for open houses to try to reach people outside of my friend group, you know, through the business page. I will do some Google marketing, door knocking the neighborhood, passing out flyers, you know, inviting as many people as possible around the neighborhood to come to the open. I have also, back before houses sold in 2 days, I was able to mail postcards out to the neighborhood, inviting people to an open house if you have enough time. If you sell, well, whether you sell it or not, you can also send postcards to the neighborhood after the open house, talking about how many people came through the open house. I have had listings where I've held it open and I've sold it at the open house. I was able to market that, you know, the house sold in, you know, this amount of time for over asking, and those type of postcards where you're marketing, you know, especially if it's your listing and you're able to send out postcards to the neighborhood. I've gotten other listings out of those. There was one in particular in Nixa that I door knocked. I sent out postcards prior to the listing, inviting people to the open house, and then a postcard after the open house when it went under contract. And I got 3 other listings in that neighborhood. So door knocking, flyers, postcards, that really, really worked in that particular neighborhood. And I've had similar success in other neighborhoods too. So, you know, aside from just open houses, you know, thinking about doing circle prospecting within the neighborhood.
Somebody asked a question like a few minutes ago. I don't know what they asked.
How many open houses do you host on one of your own listings per week? I normally don't do more than 1 on my own listing. I'll normally list a house I try to list it on a Friday and do a Sunday 2 to 4 open. And by the end of the open, I'll normally have offers in before the open house, but you know, usually by the end of the open house, I'll get some other offers from people coming through the open house. So these days I don't do more than 1, but sometimes I'll let other agents do a Friday or Saturday open if they call me and ask me. Love the video, but I'm probably going to make a lot of excuses not to record one. Yeah, or you could just do it. Just pull out your phone and thank them for coming to the open house and send it to them real quick. It's super, super easy.
So what does that even, I guess, what do you mean? You just like take a little selfie video of yourself saying thank you for coming through the open house?
Mhm.
Got it, okay.
Mhm. Yeah, so what that does, more than just sending a text message thanking them for coming, let's say someone went to 6 open houses on Sunday. Do you think they're going to remember who you are? You know, because they might have given their contact information to all 6, or maybe they only give it to you. But if you record a video, you're showing your face, you're showing your personality, you're following up in a much more personal way that none of those other agents are going to do. Do you guys go and tour open houses yourself on Sundays ever? Do it.
No, I keep meaning to do it, because
Yeah.
I want to see, and like I've gone to open houses with some of my clients before, and I wanted to simply because I wanted to know
Mhm.
what, you know, what they were doing to with their open houses to get ideas. So there was twofold, one to be with the client, the other is to, you know.
Try to do it this Sunday if you can. Go through as many open houses as you can. And what I want you to recognize when you're going through the open houses is that almost no one will ask you for your contact information. Yes. Like almost no one asks for contact information. In Keller Williams, they do. If you go to Keller Williams open houses, they'll either have a sign-in sheet or ask you for your contact info somehow. But I swear other companies do not ask for contact information. So I don't even know why they're there holding an open house. So, yeah, but go through open houses, see what different people are doing at open houses that you like, that you don't like. But yeah, I would say most people don't ask. And so if you're the agent who does ask for someone's contact information, then you have a pretty good chance of getting them as a client. Okay, so I think from here on out, this is going into, your daily 10 conversations, 10 contacts added. Are you guys is the Market Center providing cards for you to mail out to people? That's awesome.
They're
They were.
out.
Oh, they're out, okay.
I mailed 30 yesterday and came back today and they were out.
You mailed 30?
Yeah.
I should have known AI was overachiever. I thought my 3 was overachieving.
Is everyone doing the 10-5-1 social media engagement?
Are you at 10 contacts a day too?
No, that's the one that I'm falling short on, actually.
That's the one I'm falling short.
I'm at about, I would say probably like 5 a day, unfortunately.
Are you getting them off of social media or are you getting them like people you know, like?
More than anything right now, I think it's just being intentional about asking people for their contact information. Like just meeting people, running.
I know, I mean,
and then
it could
just.
be in like,
Like you're,
Like
like
I-
you go get your coffee
I
and you
got
say,
like
hey, can I
3
have your-"
people's today this morning while we were just all standing around after team meeting. Like, it's just because I'm like, I need to know you more. I need to pick your brain. Like the guy who was the speaker this morning, I was like, I've got so many questions for this guy. I'm gonna go get his phone number. And I've already like texted him just because.
well, I do that.
know.
I just
And
assume
then-
when we say 10
And then
contacts.
like, I got my, the waitress who was our waitress today. I told her she was a great help and then I think that you'd be a good realtor. And because Dawn had mentioned that he does that and I was like, that's a good thought. And so, yeah, I started doing that. And then somebody else I met earlier this morning while I was getting coffee, just in the line to get coffee.
So
Just being intentional about it, I guess.
how did you have that conversation?
I
with
just had a
them?
conversation with them and then
Yeah.
at the end of it, I was like, I'd love to get your number.
People are usually pretty willing to give you their information if you ask for it.
Especially if, I mean, I don't think I said I was an agent or anything. But now I have the number and now I'm gonna give them a call back and then.
I
reach
feel
out
like
to
you're
them
just
as a
throwing this
lead.
out there,
Yeah.
I'm an agent.
Nice, sure.
I know, me too.
I know
I'm always
some
in my
people, it's
head.
not, I know,
Yeah.
it's here.
It's all in my head. And if
we
even
bring
Lisa's
it?
like, you've got to get over your fear. And I try. So last night I door knocked 9 houses in my neighborhood.
Let's go.
And then
So good.
after the 9th one, I'm like, I'm done.
Emotionally set
I
up.
don't think I've door knocked once.
All I did was
Okay,
I just, because
for-
I already had these door
I don't think I
hangers.
ever have.
And so I was handing them out. I said,
Mhm.
I'm just introduced, I said, because it was like 5 o'clock at night. I said, I'm just in the neighborhood. I'm also a realtor and I just wanted to introduce you or just introduce
That's so
myself to you.
good.
I don't want to take up any of your time because I know it's a busy time,
Mhm.
but here's my information.
That's awesome.
That's what I said.
Trying to get their information next time.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
just be
Okay,
that
so-
much
so-
pushy.
Yeah, I know. It was, hey, it was a lot
Let
for
them
me
know
to
that
get
you
into
are,
it.
let them know that you're a neighbor and you want to send them, neighborhood updates.
Good.
Command the bi-weekly. I mean, that's a perfect way to do it. If you have their email address and phone number, you already have their address because you're at their door.
Mhm.
So set them up on the bi-weekly. I've had, I have all of my past clients set up on a bi-weekly. And if I don't do anything else with them, sometimes that will engage them to call me in 2 or 3 years when they're ready to sell because they're getting my email every other week, showing stats about, what's listed in the neighborhood. So I would put everyone that you can, everyone that you have a physical address and an email address for, I would definitely set them up on the bi-weekly.
Okay.
The little QR code that you set as your screen, when somebody scans it, can they put their information in that? for you?
It's just-
That's
it's just
what
further
I want. I
information.
want something that gives me their,
Yeah.
gives them mine and then they fill out and I get it.
Mhm.
There has to be, is there anything like that?
I like
Yeah,
that.
they can set it up on their phone too. The QR code, Apple or Google, that's, you can just go to your contacts. And
Oh, yeah, that
let's
is
see
true.
here. how do
Have
I
you
do
heard
this?
other,
So like,
first lines for people who are coming in that have worked for people?
Um,
I just go to myself.
nothing that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is there anything else you do intentionally throughout your open house that is
Yeah.
like, this is intentional because it's worked in the past, I guess?
I wish there was a way. I know that there's a way. or
I wish that
can-
all of the lines that I
guess
use,
can, like,
I should have brought those, written them
Have your
down
QR
and brought them
codes.
in with
You
me.
can just-
You need
Uh,
somebody who shadows you one time
Okay,
to
and
write
get
down
their
just
info.
like a detailed list so
You
you
know what I
can
mean?
teach on
I
it
think
next
so.
time.
I will put that together. Yep. So speaking of door knocking, I have done door knocking for listings that I've taken. I've done door knocking for open houses, but I've also done door knocking for buyers. Where, so if I have a buyer that has a really specific need, you know, they need to be in a neighborhood that's, you know, right at $200,000 or something, and they're looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, whatever it is. I'll make a flyer about the family, talk about the family, you know, and have, you know, little infographics on there, you know, 2 bedrooms and have a little infographic of a bed, you know, 2-car, whatever. And just make a fun flyer and then find a neighborhood that's predominantly in that price range with that number of bedrooms and bathrooms and start door knocking and handing out flyers to everyone. Try to do it like after 5 PM or on a weekend when most people are gonna be home.
Just
And
accept you're gonna be interrupting people's
okay.
weekends. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
That's what a lot of.
I almost never have anyone that's annoyed at me though.
Right.
Yeah,
And that's what I think everybody thinks like, oh, I'm gonna just be pissing people off because I'm interrupting their afternoon. It's like,
Mhm.
yesterday I had a pest control guy come by and I like gave him the time of day just because I'm like, yeah, this sucks. Like door knocking sucks, dude. So I'll give you my respect for a
Yeah.
little bit, but like whatever.
I don't think so.
So one thing that you'll find if you're door knocking neighborhoods for a buyer, you're gonna run into people that are renting that house and then you can get their contact information to sell them something later. You're gonna run into people who are thinking about selling, or they know a neighbor who's thinking about selling, and then you can go over to the neighbor and say, hey, I just talked to Bob over here and he said that you were thinking about selling. I have a buyer looking, you know, for something like this. Have you thought about? So those, you know, I have gotten listings from door knocking. I have picked up buyers that are renters from door knocking. So that can be a really good tool. I know of one agent who I think is still at KW, and for a time, all he did was door knocking. That was his entire, that's where he got all of his leads. He just went out door knocking every single day. So that's a way to pick up leads. Mhm. If you don't have anything else to do.
Long, that's a lot of gas.
Okay, Sam said, I have a fear of door knocking, stranger danger. Ladies, how do you make yourselves feel comfortable and safe?
Carry a gun. No,
That's
just
what
kidding.
Jacqueline said.
Very good. I have a belly holster that I carry my gun with.
Do it with a partner.
Yeah.
Door knock with a partner. Absolutely. Mhm. Mhm.
And also, like whenever you go to the door, don't stand right at the door.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Take 2 steps back
Yep.
so that you've got plenty of space between you and they're away from arm's length as well, so they
Yeah.
can't grab you.
Mhm.
And then,
And dress professionally.
yeah,
Mhm. Yep.
yep, I have a name tag that I
There you
wear.
go. Name tag, clipboard, dress professionally, and big smile, and,
Try not to sweat too much.
yeah, yeah. And, you know, most people aren't gonna answer the door.
Right.
Mhm.
Nope. I
It's-
just stick my little door hanger on their door
Uh-huh.
and go on.
Well, do you have any questions about anything that we've covered today or anything else that we haven't covered?
No, it's good.
It's very
All right.
informative.
Awesome. Well, I think we're gonna leave it there then. So I'll let you go and do your daily 10-4 and social media and
Can we get your number, your phone
Yeah.
number, Chris?
yes, I did not bring any cards with me,
Oh,
but you
that's
can write it
okay.
down.
I'll write it down.
Yep, my phone number is 417-569-2480. And my name is Chris Day. And my email is cday@kw.com. And I have an office upstairs that is across the hall from the executive team, and my name is on the window there, so if you can stop by and ask me questions anytime you want.
What was the email again?
cday@kw.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sam says, thanks so much. Bye, friends.
What are you doing now for leads since you're not